Good afternoon, my friends, and welcome to Conspiracy or Conspiracy, where we talk about all things conspiracy related, whether that be the deep state, the Illuminati, ETs, UAPs, UFOs, things that go bump in the night. Welcome, my friends. So YouTube, as I'm sure many of you have noticed, doesn't like you to talk about certain things. They don't like you to talk about the recent event that took place of November 3rd, 2020, and they don't like you to talk about the beer bug. And it's interesting because in the United States of America, we of course have free speech, and we're allowed to have discourse on these issues, but for whatever reason, these two topics you cannot talk about on YouTube, and so I am who I am, and I'm going to try and find a way to talk about it. So we're going to talk about the stolen 2020 erection. When you have an erection, you don't want it to be stolen. You want that to be yours, and you want it to be a free and fair erection. So I thought, why not talk about the stolen 2020 erection? So that's what we're going to do today. Hold on. I'm not sure if this is piping through the right mic or not. So I thought, where do you start with the stolen 2020 erection? And I think there's a lot of places to go with it. I mean, you can talk about the stopping counting, just abandoning the counts in key states. You can talk about the video evidence of ballots being rolled out and being run through a machine multiple times. You could talk about the very, very low attendance of rallies for a certain erection candidate. You could talk about the person that was put on the ticket that dropped out of the primary very early because they got called out on their record by another candidate. And somehow that person ended up as vice president, a lightweight, to be sure, not exactly a Mensa candidate, I think we could say. But they ended up on the ticket, didn't they? Didn't she? Yeah. I'm sure that that she was eminently qualified for that office. I'm sure that was the best person for the job. Anyway, so we're gonna look at it. We're gonna look at the stolen erection, but I think with the stolen erection, you educate yourself. You look at some of the things that nations that the elite have done in the past when they want to steal an erection, and there's a playbook. So when you see things that have happened in other countries, and you would look at, say, Argentina with Memen in the 90s, and you say, wow, well, that looks a lot like what is happening in the United States now. And, it's interesting because if the erection wasn't stolen, then clearly I don't think that the powers that be would have a problem with us talking about the stolen erection, right? Because if it weren't stolen, it would be obvious it wasn't stolen. So, of course, there would be no problem talking about it, right? But it's all that it's that old adage, you if you want to find out who your rulers are, find out who you can't criticize, and there you go. So at this point, really, I think it's obvious. The globalists are in control, and they've decided that the CCP is one of their main vehicles to achieving their one world government. And they really like what's happening in China. See, do you see? It's not. It's not inconsistent with their playbook. For all of the cries of accusing people of being Nazis and such and thus, the CCP is really the closest thing we have in these times to Nazis, and so they run concentration camps. You have a combination of state and corporate power. I think there's a word for that. The combination of state and corporate power. I think there's a name for that. Fascism. So you have that, and you might say, well, the CCP, they're not Nazis because they're not white supremacists. But they are. 60 Minutes did a report about 10 years ago on the CCP where they would hire like white dudes and pay them exorbitant speaking fees to speak on a topic that they knew nothing about solely because they were white people. So you could say, well, at least the CCP, at least the Chinese, at least they're not white supremacists. But they are! You fucking idiots. Oh my God. This is ridiculous. So you have that. And you have the playbook being played. And so I think a good place to start would be a book that appeared in 2004, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And I'll give you the Cliff's Notes version here because we can't go through the whole thing. So, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's a semi-autobiographical book written by John Perkins, published in 2004. The book provides Perkins' account of his career with engineering consulting firm Charles T. Main in Boston. According to Perkins, his job at the firm was to convince leaders of undeveloped countries to accept substantial development loans for large construction and engineering projects, ensuring that these projects were contracted to U.S. companies. Such loans provided political influence for the U.S. and access to natural resources for American companies. It was primarily helping rich families and local elites rather than the poor. According to Perkins, he began writing Confessions of an Economic Hitman in the 1980s, but threats or bribes convinced him to stop. So this guy is the Smedley Butler of our time. And I think this, because if you recognize what we've done in other countries, you'll see what has been done to us. Suggesting a system of corporatocracy and greed rather than a unilateral conspiracy, Perkins claims the involvement of the NSA, with whom he had interviewed for a job prior to joining Maine. According to the author, this interview effectively constituted an independent screening that led to his subsequent hiring as an economic hitman by Einar Grieve, vice president of the firm and an alleged NSA liaison. Confessions of an Economic Hitman was met with skepticism about the accuracy of Perkins' claims. I'm sure it was. So here's the meat and potatoes of it. Economic hitmen. Hold on. I want to make sure that you can read it. Economic hitmen are highly paid professionals who cheat countries around the globe out of trillions of dollars. They funnel money from the World Bank, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and other foreign aid organizations into the coffers of huge corporations and the pockets of a few wealthy families who control the planet's natural resources. Their tools included fraudulent financial reports, rigged elections, payoffs, extortion, sex, and murder. They play a game as old as empire, but one that has taken on new and terrifying dimensions during this time of globalization. So, what do we think there? So the idea behind this is that, okay, fraudulent financial reports. Does anybody think that that's happening? I think so. You look at what's happening in our pop culture and the propaganda that is being put out. I mean, none of this stuff makes any sense. So clearly, that card has been played. Clearly, things are happening in news and pop culture. I mean, it's so blatantly obvious if you look at it. I mean, it's not just bad. There's clearly an agenda behind it. So that's taking place. And, bribes. I'm sure that Joe Biden was a very honest politician the whole time he was there. And by the way, there are rumors that his first wife that died in the car accident, that was not an accident. That was them sending a message to him. But I digress. You'll have to do your own research on that one. Bribery and murder and sex. I seem to recall something about a laptop from Hunter Biden. A laptop and I mean, surely there wouldn't be leverage used against Biden by dirt on a laptop. So let me get to the chat. Haler, welcome, my friend. Yes, quarter roll dance. Yep. Howdy, Keck. Good to see you, my friend. Hail the Sentinel. Good to see you. R says the Chinese elites look down at poor Chinese because they work in the sun and become darker. The royal China value paleness. It's a social sign of wealth and power. Yes, they do. They'll even have creams and powders they use to lighten their skin. Yeah. Ours is a great book called The Edge of the World, The Cultural History of the North Sea and the Transformation of Europe. Chapter 11, The Plague Laws. Give the elites playbook. Very fascinating reading. I'll have to check that one out. Laptop? What laptop? Yeah, I know. So, yeah, so somebody. It's obviously a fabrication. It's not his laptop. A guy that in a tell-all book, this horrible grifter, this loser, this guy that smokes meth and crack. Yeah, I mean, he's the son of a former vice president, and he wouldn't do something like that. I mean, the guy fucking smokes Parmesan cheese trying to get high on crack. But it might not be his laptop. It's just some somebody like that is super responsible. Clearly, yeah. Oh, happy birthday, Andre! Yes, love Mead, love Tom, and those guys are great. Definitely a fan. So we're in the warm-up phase of this CCP takeover. I hope we realize. I mean, they're looking at packing the Supreme Court now. I mean, we knew it was going to happen, but if they could brazenly steal an erection like that, I think, gun control, packing the Supreme Court, vaccine passports. These are all things that the CCP does. I hope people like it. I hope they appreciate it. I mean, see, I can't even get upset at bribing voters at this point because they didn't elect him. You see, when 2016 happened, you had people that got upset at people that voted for Trump or were perceived to have voted for Trump. And they would hate mob you, and they would find out where you worked, and they would, or if you're self-employed, they would contact your fucking clients and they would harass you. But see, if this were reciprocal, if there was reciprocity here, the people, the Trump voters would be going after the bribing voters, wouldn't they? But they're not. They're not. And, there's probably a couple of reasons for that, but I think the number one reason is that most of your Trump voters know that those people that voted for bribing didn't elect him because the erection was stolen. Yeah. R says the pictures of Hunter's crack decayed teeth shows he has quite the problem. Yeah. That's not cracked. That's meth is what that is. See, the guy is so far gone. That he thinks that it's more socially acceptable to say he was a crackhead than a meth head. Like, that's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at. Man. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Disgusting. Toxic Man Blue says, "Hail all. I'm looking for my erection." And no, I'm not making an Asian joke. Yeah, who knew the erection was detachable? Says Toxic Man Flu. Yeah. Keck says it's almost like they want to regulate the movement of people unless it's politically beneficial. I know, right? It is. They to have something and then it'll be applied to something else. That's never happened before. I mean, Social Security originally, it even said on the cards, and they took this off recently, not to be used for identification. And now your Social Security number basically is your number. And so I'm sure that something like a vaccine passport would not be used for another nefarious purpose. I'm sure it's not going to be used to track you, to implement a social credit score. I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure that you're not going to have financial institutions and social media unperson people and delete them, as happened with, say, your Alex Joneses of the world and a former president. I'm sure that that's not going to happen. I'm sure that the CCP takeover of America, they're going to be benevolent overlords. And so you people, you useful idiots that are buying in to this woke agenda, I'm sure that the intentions are good. I'm sure that that's what it is. And that the rule of law and all the things that made the United States an amazing and a great country. I'm sure the CCP, they love that stuff. So you better get used to people and topics disappearing. You better get used to it. And you better get used to the rules blatantly being broken, our laws, our erection laws, if you will. And as this escalates, it's going to trickle into real life. Oh, it's going to trickle into real life. And, you know, people that run afoul of the system, they're going to have a really bad time, you know. Oh, it's going to start with things like audits. It's going to start with things like social media censorship. Oh, yeah. But it's going to get to places where you see people brought up on trumped up charges and that they're prosecuted and jailed. That's coming. So, you know, we could blame bribing voters, but he wasn't elected. He was, you know, he was erected, if you will. But you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it because, you see, the erection was on the up and up, and they don't want there to be any questions about the erection, even though in the Time magazine article, they talked about fortifying the erection. So I would like to have my erection fortified. That would be nice. You know, sometimes you're tired and it's like the opportunity presents itself, but you're tired. It's like, it would be nice if my erection were fortified right now. Toxic Man Flu says, holy shit, Hunter looks like he is homeless. Well, R says, not enough brushing. Yeah. I think that's the least of his worries. R says, I'm sure the government has the people's best interest at heart. Oh, absolutely. The elites, too. The elites love us. When you look at their statements off the record, or when they say, this is a public conference, it's like, use, you know, hint, hint, use coded language, guys. Even in those, they can't quite conceal their contempt. Toxic Man Flu says, no, I didn't get a social security number until I was 19. My Indian grandma knew about the dangers of being on a government list. Trail of Tears, anyone? Fuck you, Andrew Jackson. TMF, yeah, I am. I'm actually a member of the Cherokee Nation through my mother's side. I am about, I think, an eighth Cherokee. So yeah, the Trail of Tears, and yeah, Andrew Jackson has a mixed legacy, and definitely what he did to the Red Man is unforgivable. A lot of people overlook that. He's become popular because of with a lot of libertarians because of, the central bank and what he did with the second bank of the United States, the bank war. But really, yeah, he was definitely a horrible racist and a very bad. He did not honor those treaties, and so that was the Supreme Court even said, "Hey, man, it's a nation within a nation. Fuck off." And he's like, "Okay, well, you fuck off. You send your army in to do that." Yep. R says, "I'm sure the elites are going to create a utopia for all." Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, referring to the prosecuting people for bogus stuff. TMF says that is already here. Michael Flynn. True, but the difference, I guess, with Michael Flynn versus what's coming is that Michael Flynn was a la carte. We're going to be the buffet. You had to individually go after a Michael Flynn. What you're going to have is where it's going to be institutionalized. So they're going to go after all of us. That's going to happen. Yes. Yep. Bribin was handpicked because he was not a good candidate. He wasn't a good candidate. Even people on the left were not happy with him. So yeah, he was. R says, never question a good erection. Just go with it. Yep. That's always good advice. Yep. Always good advice. Keck says, Wes is more native than Lizzie Warren. Well, I actually have the pedigree, Keck. In fact, I have my card from the Cherokee Nation. So I have a number registered with the Cherokee Nation. And my Native American part of the family actually was very well documented in American history. So you can actually read about them in a lot of books about the Cherokee. Apparently, I come from a long line of hell-raising incorrigibles on both sides of my family, and the Native American part, is no exception. They were hell-raising incorrigibles. There was there's actually some Supreme Court case that I believe one of my ancestors had been involved with. Look at the DOJ cracking down on anyone at the Capitol on the 6th. Oh yeah. Well, then you have that story about AOC. The CHP paid a visit to someone that criticized her on social media. The CHP, the California Highway Patrol, paid a visit to someone that allegedly criticized AOC on social media. And so there's a couple of problems with that. Number one, the CHP is a state agency that works for the state of California. So there would be absolutely no jurisdiction for them to look into someone that threatened a congressman or a New York congressman. And number two, Gavin Newsom is Nancy Pelosi's nephew. So for the CHP to do that, so the story is that AOC is a renegade, a rebel, and not part of the establishment. But you have the CHP going to visit someone's house who's allegedly criticized AOC. So how would that have taken place? Well, you have the Speaker of the House, who is Nancy Pelosi, and then you have the Governor of California, who is Nancy Pelosi's nephew, and you have the CHP that went to pay a visit to someone that criticized AOC online. You think that AOC is not a part of the establishment? Hello? You think that Nancy Pelosi didn't maybe place a call to her nephew? Well, just keep thinking, that that a bartender, a lightweight like that, hasn't been co-opted. You just keep thinking that, lefties. You just keep thinking it. Keck says, cheese. Parroted says, Rosetta Allen hates government organizations. Well, I mean, there was a lot of corruption back with the reservations, and actually our what's interesting about our reservation system is that apparently a lot of what we did with Native Americans was kind of an inspiration for that bad guy from Germany in World War II. TMF says, my first wife was full-blooded Cherokee. My family is Creek and Choctaw. Oh, nice, TMF. Yeah, it's a fascinating history. And, for all this stuff about racism, this and that, there's been race mixing in the United States for a very long time. On my mom's side of the family, I mean, there would be, very Native American looking people. I mean, dark folks. I mean, that was just like Thanksgiving, that's just what it was. But apparently, race mixing never happened in America, and people were horrible racists. Yeah, partly thanks to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Yeah, there's a lot of corruption. They did some horrible stuff with the reservations. They they were supposed to feed the tribes, and they would take the money, and they would abuse the people in the reservations. It was really a dark chapter in American history, unfortunately. R says, nothing to see there, just a woman of the people. Yep, AOC is definitely a woman of the people. God, they probably got to her. She was probably a very cheap date, AOC. The establishment, you get somebody like that that's a lightweight like that. She's not going to be able to stand up to those people. I mean, come on, man. I don't know. If I wanted a bartender in Congress, I would probably elect somebody like a Paco Elijah. Paco Elijah. See, the funny thing, Paco Elijah, he's a social media guy, a libertarian. He's a bartender, and he would be more of like a radical libertarian, more on the anarchism scale. But Paco Elijah, it's funny because the media tried to tar him and put him front and center, I think, to scare the shit out of libertarians and make them not, make it see, make them seem like wackadoodles. And the funny thing is, when the media did that, people loved what Paco Elijah was saying, and that dude garnered a huge social media following because of that. So good on him, man. I love that guy's stuff. It's great. TMF says, amen to that. Creeks took in anyone who could prove loyalty to the tribe. Yeah, the Cherokee have a pretty liberal. They've often been criticized for how liberal they are with allowing people to be in the tribe. For example, basically, if you had a relative in the tribe, you can be in the tribe. So even though I would be like 15% Cherokee, many tribes say, oh, you've got to be at least, half and half, or, you have to at least be a quarter. With the Cherokee, even if you're adopted by a member of the tribe, you can become part of the tribe. So, they've been criticized for that, but I think it's a good thing to be inclusive. They're inclusive. But yeah, my grandfather, who was he was either half, or I think he was half. He was an extremely racist dude. It says forced vaccines on kids with serious side effects. Yeah, they did. They did a lot of that stuff, unfortunately. Hail, just another red shirt. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you. But yeah, so I think the Confessions of an Economic Hitman model has been used on the United States by our power elite, we'll say, and they're using the CCP as the vehicle, as one of the vehicles, a main vehicle of having that take place. And the evidence for a lot of this is what's showing up in our popular culture. Some of the news stories we've been seeing, the Stop Asian Hate, for example, that to me looks a lot like CCP propaganda. That is the kind of thing that that the CCP really likes to show their people. They like to show Chinese people being abused, and the CCP, they don't really like black people. I'm sorry, but it's true. And so if you're super woke and you think the United States is terrible, well, number one, you might be falling prey to propaganda, because the United States, if you look at human history, the United States of America is not even close to being the worst offender in that regard. If you even look at current history, if you look at current events around the globe, there are people killing each other over far less differences than you would have in a standard neighborhood in the United States. It's fucking retarded. And yet people buy into this. See, I don't want to believe that most people on social media are that stupid. I want to believe that, and there definitely is some evidence for it, that the real voices, the common sense people, are being suppressed, and that they're amplifying the voices of the retards. But never before in recorded human history have we had the freedom and the liberty that we have in the United States of America. And so you're getting the propaganda about racism and these kinds of things. The CC, and yeah, it just pisses me off. You have these retards that think that white people bad, and they think the CCP are good and tolerant people somehow. They actually fucking believe this. They believe it, and they have absolutely no idea what will be coming if they take over. I mean, there was a bad orange man, and he made mean tweets. Very bad. And you know what? I don't see mean tweets anymore. Thank you. I don't see mean tweets anymore. Thank you so much. I don't want to see things that I disagree with. The world must conform to my will. So you don't see mean tweets anymore. That's so good. We don't have a president that does mean tweets. But you do have a president. You do have a current executive office holder that is in bed with people that weld doors shut, that disappear people, that put people in concentration camps, that put people in places where their organs are harvested, they're tortured, they put people in re-education camps. And if the government accuses you of something, well, good luck defending against that. So good for you. The few retards out there that actually believe that stuff, good for you. I'm sure that you'll be exempt from all this stuff. I'm sure that you'll be exempt. I'm sure the trillions and trillions of dollars of debt that the U.S. is going into right now, I'm sure that that's not the confessions of an economic hitman model at play right now. I'm sure that that's not what it is. I'm sure that it's not designed to destroy the economy, destroy the dollar's reserve currency status. I'm sure that none of that is true. And I'm sure that when all that goes down, and by going down, I mean the dollar is the reserve currency, and all these socialist programs that you want don't mean anything because the dollar will have been destroyed, and that the CCP will be the dominant global power after that. I'm sure that that'll be a great world to live in. I'm sure that political correctness and anti-racism, I'm sure that those will be our top priorities when that shit goes down, right? You fucking idiots. Oh my God. I'm getting mad. God, I knew I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. Oh my God. Parrothead says, remember, most of them have been fed a diet of BS for years. Yep. Well, I don't know. You see, I don't know, Parrothead. If somebody feeds me a plate of shit, I'll take a bite out of it and I'll say, this tastes like shit. And I'll not want to eat it. But some people are like, shit. So I don't know. Toxic Pan Flu says, I don't want to think about Biden in bed. Here comes lunch. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can just print money to infinity. Yeah, you can just print money to infinity. You know, you get people dependent on the government. I'm sure that the government has people's best interests at heart. I'm sure that this can go on forever. And I'm absolutely sure that that this is going to be this is going to end very well for us, because that's what happens. People get in, nations get into massive amounts of debt, and it always works out well, right? Yep. R says, shit, good. Can I have more? Yep. Yeah, they love it. They just pile it. They spoon feed it in. They just diarrhea. Yum. Tastes like gravy. So yeah, it's disturbing. Since the last 3 months since the erection was stolen, just the stuff that's been coming out. I mean, they're not even trying to disguise what they're doing at this point. But they really don't like us talking about it. No, they don't like us talking about it, which means that we need to talk about the stolen erection more. And so I'm going to find every way that I can to talk about the stolen erection, because stolen erection is, I mean, this makes the Kennedy assassination look like amateur hour. The stolen erection does. And if we lose this country, it's over. It's over. We're going to enter a dark ages that it could take thousands of years for us to, for whatever small band of rebels, what for or perhaps to elites that are educated that actually get the truth about what happened in this time and age, thousands of years from now, if we lose it, it's over. We're going to be in a dark ages where people subsist. There are no rights. There are no rights. People are basically serfs. And you're going to have serfs and you're going to have the elite. And some of the elite, I imagine, will study this period in history and they'll see what happened. And the narrative will be, it didn't work because people are stupid. They need elites to govern them. And they're going to have the truth, and they're going to read, and they're going to read, and they're going to, and some of the smart ones might be able to read between the lines and see what actually happened. And there might be reformers, but it's going to be over. It's going to be over. It's going to be over. It's going to be like this. Picture the worst job you've ever had in your life. Picture the worst job you ever had in your life, where there's intense office politics, there are snitches. Picture that. Picture that. And then just picture that 24/7. Picture that no matter where you go. Picture being in public and having a conversation about these topics, and somebody fucking snitching on you about it, and because you have wrong think, you just fucking disappear. Nobody sees you again. So, you just think about that stuff. So, if you're one of those woke retards, you just think about this stuff that's happening. And you think about what you're, maybe dig a little deeper and find out who you're really working for. Toxic Man Blue says, where did my erection go? I don't know. Where did mine go? R says, we are entering a dark ages. Yes, we are, unfortunately. Congress won't save Aristotle, but we can and must. Yes, absolutely. We have to. Those of us that know what's going on, we need to network with one another. Networking is very important. We need to network. We need to be prepared for what's going to happen next. And, you have to leave it squarely at the feet of the baby boomers here, why we're entering a dark ages, because their self-indulgence and their selfishness is really what brought us to this place. Toxic Man Flu says, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Yep. My theory is that this was part of the Great Reset created by the European monarch class to return the world to pre-Magna Carta England. You're not far off. You're not far off at all. The Great Reset is basically the New World Order rebranded. The Great Reset is the New World Order. That's what it is. That is the New World Order. And they have different names for it, but the Great Reset is the New World Order. TMF says, wow, I'm angry now. These rich fucking fuckers in the fuckhole. Yeah, fuck these rich fucking fuckers in the fuckhole. Yep. Fuck them so hard they have a new fuckhole. That's what I say. R says, it's happened many times before, but out of the last dark ages came the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. It's going to be tough, but it's a road we cannot avoid. Yeah, the Great Reset is neo-feudalism. Well, I mean, history does appear to be cyclical, RR, and we're at the beginning of this. I mean, if you look at the Roman Empire, you know, the Roman Empire before it fell, well, the Western Roman Empire anyway, I mean, it hung on far longer than it probably should have. And the Roman Empire became very, between the Principate and the Dominate, a lot of what happened in the Dark Ages really took place, during that transition of the Roman Empire. So, you could expect to see that going forward. TMF says, it's very true, RR, but it really sucked for those caught in the downfall. I should have invested in precious metals and survival gear years ago. Well, yeah, I mean, and here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen, and it happened in the fall of the Roman Empire. You're going to have people that become landowners, and they're going to own a lot of land, and you're going to have an economic collapse. So you're going to have a lot of people that, like in the fall of Rome, that would trade their rights to subsistence, to basically a subsistence existence, serfdom. And you'd have, them be basically the new monarchs. And that's what will happen. That crappy public school education that you're getting now, that you're taking for granted, that's going to be gone. You're going to have wealthy landowners that have manors and fiefdoms, and some of them will be benevolent, and some of them will be tyrants. And you're going to have people that engage in a subsistence existence, and you're going to have no such thing as a middle class. But the people that are the wealthy landowners that pass on their wealth from generation to generation, those people will be set. Those people will have a very comfortable life. Those people, some of them, may even have access to the real history of what actually happened. And they will look back at this period in time as, how did they fuck that up? How did they fuck that up? And they're going to use that as the argument against liberty. They're going to use that as the argument against free humanity. See what happens when you have free humanity? They can't handle the responsibility and they fuck it up. So you can't have it. That's why we have to have authoritarianism. And they will have the power to propagate this and to cover up for their mistakes. You'll never see their mistakes. You'll never hear about their mistakes. And, some people will read between the lies in history thousands of years from now, hundreds of years from now, and they'll see what actually happened. They'll have access to this stuff, and they might actually even get it. I mean, our own history, you can see the rewriting of history being written by the victors. Caligula, for example. Wait, I don't think it was. Hold on. No, Commodus. I'm sorry, Commodus. Yes, the Emperor Commodus is lumped in with Caligula and Nero and is generally regarded by history as one of the worst emperors in Rome. But if you actually look into Commodus, Commodus ended the wars, and Commodus promoted people based on merit, not with respect to their social class. And so, yeah, Commodus was very unpopular in history. Commodus was not well regarded, but he wasn't well regarded by the senatorial class. He wasn't I mean, some of the things that he did, the meritocracy, promoting people based on merit rather than their social class, engaging in the gladiatorial games that he did. Well, I mean, through our modern eyes, we're saying, well, this guy is, a nut and he's going out and murdering people. But if you look at history in the Roman Empire, the gladiatorial games that they had, the breads and circuses, the entertainment of the day, that would be like him being a reality TV star today. That would be like Commodus. That Commodus would be like Donald Trump today, somebody that came from privilege and wealth and fought for the folks, the little guy. But history records Commodus as being a terrible Roman emperor, and I do think his last years were not good, because I just think that the senatorial class, the elite of the Roman Empire of that day, he was the subject of a lot of conspiracy and intrigue, and I think it got to him. I think he got a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at the end, but for the most part, I think that Commodus was actually a really good Roman emperor, and he merits a lot more study than he gets. And Commodus deserves a lot more credit that he gets as a Roman emperor. He's definitely not like a Nero or a Caligula. He was not. Caligula and Nero. He does not seem to fit that mold. R says, yes, that's where personal responsibility comes into play. The warning signs have been flashing for a long time. It's up to each person to plan accordingly. There's no guarantee or safety nets in life. Yep. Human nature does not change, hence the repeating pattern of civilization's downfall. Well, I think you're right, RR. I absolutely think that is the case. I mean, it's interesting to be alive during this time to witness it. I mean, we basically, I think we could probably agree that the peak power of the United States of America was probably in the 1960s. And so what we're seeing is the slow decline and takeover of an empire. And, culminated with that very humiliating stolen erection that happened last year. I mean, it's so obvious, our elites and overlords just rebranded their brand of tyranny. They put in this guy named Bribin, who shits his pants and can't string two sentences together. And, it's like the Confessions of an Economic Hitman model. We're going to have somebody that's an American. He's going to speak your language, but, he doesn't serve your interests. He serves our interests. R says, it is a fascinating time to be alive. Yep. God, I can't believe this stream has not been wiped yet. I think stolen erection is the way to go if you want to talk about this topic. But I highly encourage you, if you want to look at a more recent example of what's happening. There was a great documentary done on Argentina on Carlos Menem. That mirrors what's happening with our own Lord Bribin here, and probably gives you a good idea of what's to come. Because what happened in Argentina is what's happening here. What happened in Argentina between 89 to 99, that's what's happening here, folks. So you probably want to watch that documentary. You probably want to plan accordingly. You probably don't want to take that stimulus money that you're getting and frivolously buy it on a 55 or 65 inch TV, okay? You probably don't want to do that. Yeah, conspiracy guy. He sits on my shoulder and comes up with all kinds of good ideas. Yep. Yeah, I'm shocked as well. Yeah. YouTube is very proud of the fact that they're taking down erection-based content. They're bragging about it. They're writing about their erection-based content. Their erection-based content censorship. They really are quite proud of themselves that most of the people talking about it, they describe them as, quote, small YouTubers. And that's what we have to do. We have to be here as long as we can and talk about these things. Tulsi Gabbard said, hey, don't quit speaking. You know, we're under censorship. What you shouldn't do is stop speaking. You need to continue to speak. And so everybody setting up a channel is free. We all know where this is going anyway. So we all need to be speaking, because your silence is not going to protect you. When it goes down and we slide into tyranny, and it's not a case of going after the worst offenders, but when it flips from them specifically targeting specific people to, if you toe the party line, you're safe, and everyone else is persecuted. When that transition happens, and we're in the middle of that transition, folks, we're in the middle of that transition right now. That's not going to keep you safe. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if any of you woke imbeciles out there, if any of you woke people finally have decided to understand why there's an opposition, and you decide to punch through what's been propagated to you, and you actually want to listen to what people are saying on the other side, people that you claim to be horrible racists and Nazis. If you actually want to listen to what they're saying, and you're hearing this, maybe you got some work to do. Maybe you got some reading to do. Maybe you got some ebooks to listen to. Maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. Maybe. I don't know. I've had to go through a process where I've had to heal over some things. And one of the first things they do is they say, own your shit. Take accountability for for yourself. And one of the very first lessons that you learn when you go through like a therapeutic process like that, one of the first things you learn is that you are the problem You are the solution. The one thing that you have control over is yourself. So if you get upset by certain things, you get triggered by certain things. You need to figure out why that is, and you need to dig deeper. And you can either choose to be triggered by it or not be. God, we're fucked. But, you know, maybe it'll happen. Maybe some of these people will watch some of our podcasts and they'll learn a thing or two. Or they'll ask questions, if not to us, to themselves. R says, "Yep. After they come after the low-hanging fruit, they will come for you, and there will be no one left to defend you. Now is the time to choose sides. There's no middle ground. There isn't." And you know, I mean, and if we're talking about propaganda, we have to talk about the propaganda used on us, and that's that with groups like Black Lives Matter, part of that propaganda isn't just towards the black people; it's towards people that aren't black. It's targeted to make them not have these conversations with people that are different or black people in these communities. It's designed to divide so that you don't have these conversations. And I'll let you know a little secret, you know. I have black friends and I have conversations with black people about these topics frequently. And part of the Black Lives Matter and the propaganda about the police shootings that are happening is that they don't want white people to have conversations with black people about this stuff. Because black people are a lot smarter than our mainstream media gives credit to. They're a lot smarter. They have a lot of common sense because having been victims of the government and, you know, things like Tuskegee and you know, if you look at the real event, Black Wall Street, and these types of things, you actually find that black people are very receptive to this message about the government, about cynicism about the government. They have quite a bit of common sense. And so you know, all of this stuff that's being propagated with police shootings and this and that, it's not just to propagandize black people into thinking that the country is fucked and that they'll never get a fair shake. It's also aimed at the white folks out there to think that that's what black people want and to not have those conversations. Ugh. But you know, thankfully, you know, in our community, in the Fandom Menace, we do have amazing black voices, and you know, I just think of them as voices. I mean, I acknowledge race, and I acknowledge that. But the thing about race is that okay, it's a part of who you are, and it's going to inform to a large extent your worldview. But I don't see you as only your race. And we have some amazing voices and amazingly talented people that that have black voices that do have these tough conversations. And the thing that sucks is that they shouldn't have to do that. They shouldn't have to do that. And so they get a lot of credit for doing that because they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to do that. They should just be living their lives and having an amazing life and using their talent and their abilities to kick ass at life. And it's kind of fucked up that they have to do that, that they have to explain these common sense things. So I give them a lot of credit for it. Ara says, we're fucked, but if we stick together, we can keep a human civilization alive. I choose to believe we will. Yeah, me too, RR. I think that we need to put up a fight, and we need to not make it easy for them to do it. And so, uh, if we put up a fight, then that will it'll have to be at least acknowledged in the history books, and you know it'll happen. Humanity has flourished under tyranny before. We just need to uh, keep going forward. Yeah, but I mean, this stream is almost therapeutic for me because I've been wanting to talk about this stuff for a while, and I'm also thinking about YouTube as a platform and what to do on YouTube going forward. And it's like, well, it's their platform, and you have to do certain stuff to grow on YouTube, and you have to avoid certain topics on YouTube. And I'm about as close to an absolutist on free speech as you can possibly be. And so to censor, to sell out a little here, a little there, to censor a little here, to censor a little there, that doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me at all. So I'm just going to speak my mind, and I'm going to say what I want to say, and let the chips fall where they may. And if they unperson me or delete me, I'll show up somewhere else, or I'll show up again on their platform, and that's just how it'll be. But we can't stop speaking out about this stuff. So that's just the path forward. That's what's going to happen. RR says, we must rage against the dying of the light. We cannot go quietly into that good night. Humanity is counting on us. No pressure. We must do our best, not give in to fear, and let fate take its course. Absolutely. Because whatever happens to us, again, hundreds of years, thousands of years from now, someone's going to have access to all of this stuff. And not only are they going to have access to our content, but they're going to have access to the analytics of our content, the suppression that was taking place. They're going to have all of that real information. So even if you are in whatever system appears hundreds or thousands of years from now, whatever system appears, they're going to have access to this. And I would imagine they're going to be studying this. So we have to at least have this voice be heard. So that whatever revolution happens, assuming we lose this one, our purpose will be clear, and our reasoning for our purpose will be clear. R says, what we do in this life echoes into eternity, so choose your actions wisely. Absolutely. I think that also what you do in this existence, this corporeal existence, echoes into not just the history, but the soul, the spirit, that which is eternal, that which lives on after we live on, after the physical existence. So absolutely, I think doing good deeds and being a good person matters. Not just for recorded history, but for the unrecorded history, the spirit, the intangibles. Man. Says it's time to declare a new Declaration of Independence. I think we have to. I think it's gotten to the point where they're so blatant and open out in the open with their tyranny and their agenda that we have to. We have to turn our backs on these people and call them out for the lunatics that they are. They think that they're separate and apart from humanity, and we have to do something about it. These are going to be seen. I made a prediction last year, and people were asking me, they said, what do you think is going to happen when people look back on 2020? Do you think it's going to get better in 2021? And I said, and I'm on record saying it, I said, people are going to look back on 2020 like 2020 were the good old days. And I stand by that prediction, and I think that you'll see that play out. 2020 will seem like the good old days compared to what's to come. Yep. I can't look at Crackhead anymore. So, wow. Oh, man. I had a bit of Tourette's of truth today. I'm often accused of not having a filter, and I think today definitely qualifies as a non-filter day. Horus is act in such a way that if you had the power to make it a universal law, you would. The cosmos is ordered by rational intelligence, and we must do what we can to imitate its perfection. Yes, my friend, and it's not just rational intelligence, it's heart, it's spirit, it's love. It's not just intelligence. The intelligence is a reflection of its heart and its love and its creation. It's a celebration of life and that love and that creation. See, and that's the thing, you know, for all this wokeness and bullshit, these stupid white liberals that never talk to black people but claim to be, or brown people or Latino people that claim all of this stuff, they never have conversations with them. And if you'd have a conversation with them, you would see how stupid the stuff is that you're saying. I mean, you're not even treating them like they're human beings. You're so condescending towards them. It's so offensive. Because if you would stop to have a conversation with them, you'd see how much the same we all are, and how brilliant they are, and what amazing people they are. They have a different culture, yeah, sure, but this condescension that you have, it's the most racist shit I've ever seen in my life. I can't believe it. And so I don't know if it's strange being a spectator to this, and it's strange to see people actually buy into it if you believe social media. I mean, R says the ancient Greeks described rationality as encompassing all that nature has given us, which includes the passions. This is why AI can never achieve human consciousness. We are more than logic. Absolutely. Yep. The ancient Greeks, they've given us so much. They've given us so much, but you know, we're we're heading into, you know, again, you know, we're heading into a dark age, and you know, some of the things that survive dark ages are works of fiction. So If you have good fiction will survive. R says, we can appreciate the beauty of the natural world and worship the gift it is. A truly unique human condition. Yep. Well, I even think animals have souls. That's one of the things that when I was a kid and I went to Sunday school, I'll never forget this. I asked, I said, do animals have souls? And they said, no, animals don't have souls and go to heaven. And I was like, heaven must suck. I was like, what? Because when you've had a pet, you've had a dog or a cat or, you know, an animal companion, it's obvious that animals have souls. R says, we have abandoned their teachings. Yep, we have. Well, the elites have. Yep, animals do have souls. Yes, Toxic Man Flu. I wholeheartedly agree. So I don't know. They talk more about in Eastern religions, you know, reincarnation and such, about animals and souls, and you know, re-experiencing life in different ways, whether that be, you know, karmic or not karmic. But yeah, one of the things about living in the country that really changed my life was this is going to seem stupid, but Disney cartoons from early Disney cartoons, you know, with the animals and things like that, and the mouse in the house and all that stuff. Living in the country where there's not a lot of people, but there is a lot of nature, a lot of animals. It's very cool. It's a very spiritual existence. It's a very spiritual life. When you're out in the country and animals just kind of do their thing, it's like you really realize how big the world is. And it's interesting because I think I was having a conversation with my mother about this actually. And my mom said, because we had a cat, we had an outdoor cat because I'm allergic to cats, and you know, the cat would come in when it was really cold, but other than that, it was an outdoor cat. And sometimes he'd be inside, but most of the time outdoors. My mom was just like, you know, we have this big sliding glass door, and she's like, you know how we go to the zoo and we see animals and it's supposed to be their natural habitat? Well, what if to the cat, we're the zoo and the cat is looking at us like we're living in our natural habitat? And I thought about it and I was like, whoa. I was like, it really would be like that. The cat goes out and lives a cat's life and does cat things and hunts. And to the cat, you know, looking through this giant sliding glass door, it's like we're in the zoo. And the cat is observing us in our natural habitat. R says, I believe everything in the cosmos has a soul, but we are the only beings that create monuments to it. Our essential nature consists of morality, aesthetics, and rationality. Yeah, that's true. We have the sophistication to be able to do that. We have the, you know, our hands, a lot of it with anthropologists, and they say that our hands, the ability to make tools and to leave a legacy and writing, that level of sophistication is why we is really what separates us from the animals, not necessarily language. I think that animals do have a language. I mean, it may not be as sophisticated as our language, but they do. It's just a shame that chicken and beef taste so damn good. Otherwise, I'd be really bummed about killing them. Who doesn't enjoy a steak? Ours is in many aspects, we are creatures of self-perfecting artistic creation. Yeah, we should really focus on our positive aspects, the positive aspects of humanity, for sure. But the Taoists would say that the ability to do all those higher functions makes us less in tune with the universe. Interesting. I could see that point. But yeah, to go back to the cat, and the funny thing is that we would be putting ourselves in our own zoo, I guess, would be the that's why we should be thankful to the animals, the nutrition they provide us. Yeah, I mean, the least we could do is provide them a comfortable existence before we, we murder them and rip them apart and eat them. Man, who doesn't love carne asada nachos or carne asada fries? Or pizza with a good pepperoni and ham and fucking sausage. Oh my God, I'm getting hungry. Murder more animals, please. I'm getting hungry. Don't forget bacon. Sorry, dead piggies. And what's funny is that supposedly pigs are the closest in the animal kingdom DNA wise to us. That's why people are trying to grow pig. That's why you'll get like pigs' hearts or parts of pigs' valves for your heart if you need heart surgery. Yeah, it's very strange. Potatoes are people too, says Toxic Man Flu. Unfortunately, a potato is president at the moment, so yeah, that's somewhat disturbing. Something about a stolen erection. The erection got stolen. It happens. Alrighty, well, this has been an amazing stream. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you're not subscribed to Conspiracy or Conspiracy, please subscribe before YouTube wipes my channel off. And if you think you're subscribed, make sure that you're subscribed. And I guess we'll continue documenting the decline and fall of Western civilization and our slide into the new dark ages. Sleep well. Thanks for hanging.